Alright, here we go.
I love math.
What's your favorite variable? Why is that? Class, what's the same thing as arc cosine? Oh, you can't see anything. Let's try that again. Step 1, we're setting it equal to an equation. Janet, we're over here. Thank you. We said that arc cosine is the same thing as what? Inverse of cosine. If you like to rewrite it, I would do that. What do we do next, class? Let me switch them. See what I'm circling. I'm circling the y value and essentially the x value. And don't forget to take that off on the next line. Class, what should I write next? Cosine of y equals radical 2 over 2. Math is so fun because it's like a puzzle. If you drew the unit circle, where is cosine positive, class? First and fourth. So let's look there on our trig paper plates. Some of you, hopefully, it's okay. I had my teddy bear for a long time, but eventually you can't have it forever, right? You kind of have to let go. No more night lights. You got to let go of this paper plate. It's got to be here or derive it. So cosine is the first one. I'm at pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4. Raise your hand if you got this. So it's kind of like a search, right? So y is equal to pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4. Class, if you look at your chart, what's the restriction of the domain for cosine? It is between 0 and pi. That means my answer should be between 0 and pi. Okay, this is where your fractions come into play. How can I get a common denominator? Multiply by 4 over 4. Yes or no? Yes or no? It's way out here, right? If I subtracted 8 pi over 4, would it get in there? No, that would give you negative 1 pi over 4. So our final answer is pi over 4. Raise your hand if you got that. Good job. Let's try this next one. Class, tell me what to do. Pick your favorite Greek letter. Alpha, the fish. Arc cosine is another way of writing. Inverse of cosine equals alpha. Circle and do your switch. Don't forget that one. Now I have cosine of alpha equals negative radical 3 over 2. Let's find where cosine is negative. I like to do this in the opposite. I put my fingers first on where it's positive. That means it's negative in these two locations. Where is cosine negative radical 3 over 2? 5 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. Oh, this one's not a good one. That's okay. So 5 pi over 6 cosine and sine. So here's my two locations. So 5 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. I can use restrictions from above. Zero to pi. It's kind of like my cheesy number line. Common denominator of 6. Class, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's right here. 5 pi over 6, then 6 pi over 6. How about 7 pi over 6? No. No. So alpha equals 5 pi over 6. So what did you do first? Nelson, that's not here. Leslie, what did you do first? Oh yeah, let's call everyone who got the blue slips.
Equation.
Yes. What's your favorite Greek letter? Beta? Sure. Melina, what's another way of writing arc sign? Yeah, what is that -1 called? Inverse. Margarita, what do we do next? We're going to switch them. Margarita, tell me what to write. Radical 3/2. Mariana, where is sine positive radical 3/2? Correct. Where specifically? Yep. Sine is the second one, so 1π/3 and 2π/3. John, tell me the restriction on the domain of sine. Class common denominator is 6. So I'm going to multiply this one by 3/3. These by 2/2. So you're going to get -3π/6 to 3π/6. And this is a 2π/6 and a 4π/6. Angel, accept or reject? Accept or reject?
Reject.
If I use coterminal angles, if I subtract 12π/6 or add 12π/6, does it fit?
Yeah.
Which one? Subtract or add 12π/6?
I'm guessing subtract.
So 4 minus 12 is?
Oh, no, that's wrong. It's reject.
4 minus 12 is?
Oh,
-8.
-8.
So our answer for beta is not 2. Pi/3, right? I just used this one to help me figure out. Raise your hand if you got pi/3. I get it messy, huh? All right, class. Why is tangent a little bit more difficult? Yeah, it's not in our trig unit circle, right? All you have is just cosine and sine, but we can use the x's and y's. Okay. All right, let's do it. Kate, your favorite Greek letter? Kate, what is the same way of writing arctangent? Correct. Of 1 equals beta. Kaylee, what do we do next? Kaylee P. Tell me what to write. Sean, tell me where tangent is positive. Quadrants 1 and 3. Right? All students take calculus, so right here. Okay, here's a hard one. Where is tangent 1? It helps if you guys remember the trig graph of tangent. I'll give you a hint. Orange, pink, or green? Want a class vote? Need some audience help? It's like a game show every day, right? All right, Sean. Class, raise your hand if it's orange, pink, green. All right, Sean, based off of that, what do you think? I'm trying to help. Okay, watch this, watch this. The reason why it's not green is because if you do, pay attention, tangent is y over x. Yes? So I'm going to prove to you why it's not green, because it would be 1 over radical 3. And if you rationalize this, this is tangent at of 30 degrees, or pi over 6 is, the answer would be radical 3 over 3. So Sean, it is not green. Your choices are now orange or pink. It's orange. Okay, so if I picked here, y over x, this would be radical 3 over 1. We're trying to get 1. So if it's not orange or green, it's pink. Look at this, guys. Cover up the 2's. The reason why you're covering up the 2's is because it's the r value. So all you have to do is y over x. This will give you radical 2 over 2. And radical 2 over 2 is? 1. So pi over 4 and 5 pi over 4 are answers. Okay, this might be new. Brenda, tell me the restriction of the domain for tangent. Negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, and they have parentheses. Brenda, what does a parentheses mean? Include or don't include? Don't include. All right, Ruby, I need common denominators. Ah, good question. You tell me. Okay, you could go 8, not wrong. Is there a smaller one? Because it says lowest common denominator. You would have to multiply by 2 over 2 to get you a 4. Negative 2 pi over 4, and this would be 2 pi over 4. Jovan, accept or reject? Accept. If accept or reject? If you subtract 8 pi over 4, add 8 pi over 4, does it get you in here? No. Beta equals pi over 4. Tangent's a little bit more difficult in the other trig functions because you have to now use your letters x, y's, and r's. Arctangent equals radical 3. We're supposed to evaluate this. Tatiana, what's the first thing we're going to do? Favorite Greek letter? Tatiana, what's another way of writing arctangent? Yep. Kaylee S., what do we do next?
Switch.
Tell me what to write now.
Beta pi radical 3 equals tan beta.
Raise your hand if you have that so far. Good. Daphne, where is tangent positive? Yeah, quadrants 1 and 3. Okay. Remember, Daphne, tangent is which 2 letters? X, Y, and R. Class on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Y over X. Okay, what does that mean for us? My hint is, if you look at just the numerator, so for example, I'm looking for a positive radical 3. If I come up here, y over x. Do you see that? You're essentially looking for an order pair that's x, y, 1, radical 3. Do you see that? So if I kind of look at this, an order pair that's 1, radical 3, my answer is pi over 3. And she said tangent was positive in quadrant 3, so class, what's the other one? Which one? 4 pi over 3, right? I mean, what? Negative radical 3 over negative 1. Because negative divided by negative is a positive. Let me prove to you why in the fractions why you don't need the 2's, okay? So, we're going on a tangent. I'm glad you got that. Let me prove to you guys why you don't need the 2's. I'm not just showing you shortcuts, I'm showing you the math. So I have negative radical 3 over 2 divided by negative 1/2. When you're dividing fractions, you change this to multiplication, and then you take the reciprocal. Negative radical 3 over 2 times negative 2 over 1. Look what happens. What happens? The 2's cancel. Negative times negative is a positive. You're just left with radical 3. So that's the reason why I keep kind of putting my fingers over the 2's. You see that? Okay. We're almost there. So the other answer was what? 4 pi over 3, right? Okay. Now I need the restriction of the domain for tangent. And what is that, Karina? Looking at your chart. Class, what's our common denominator? It's going to be a 6. How do I get those to be 6's? I'm going to multiply by 3's here. So this becomes 2 pi over 6. And this one becomes 8 pi over 6. This is negative 3 pi over 6 and 3 pi over 6. Are we going to accept or reject this one? Yep. Because it's negative 2 pi over 6 is right here, somewhere in there. 8 pi over 6, unit? Reject. Okay. Be careful now. If I subtract 12 pi over 6, because that's a full rotation, right? Is it in here? Eight minus 12 is?
Negative 4.
So negative 4 pi over 6 would be over here. So it's still outside. If I add 12 pi over 6, I get 20 pi over 6 is too big. So my answer for beta is pi over 3. You use the reduced radian angle. Ducky, your answer. Okay, I have to ask you a question. Is 5 pi over 3 in the restricted domain? Is 5 pi over 3? You're telling me 5 pi over 3 is the answer, right? Is it in the restricted domain? Correct. So how do you get it into the restricted domain?
You have to use the
So I got 10 pi over 6. 5 pi over 3, if you use 10 pi over 6. See if it fit in here. It's not, so I do a negative rotation. So 10 minus 12 is negative 2. Negative 2 pi over 6 is in this rotation. If you reduce it, your answer is alpha equals negative pi over 3. Raise your hand if you got that. So Ducky originally had 5 pi over 3. Raise your hand if you had 5 pi over 3. 5 pi over 3 is not in the restricted domain. Remember, your answer has to be between here. Yes? Is it following along? Okay, so he did the coterminal angle, and this coterminal angle is within the restricted domain, so alpha equals negative pi over 3 is your answer.